Hey NBA fans, our basketball coverage is ramping back up. More and more videos, be looking out for them on the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and do so. Hit that big red button, share that link with a friend. It's youtube.com/chatsportstv. NBA is officially back. We have a schedule for the off season, so expect more basketball coverage here on Chat Sports. So go ahead and subscribe. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in to today's video. All right, I'm your host, Harrison Graham. We got 6 players who I believe could get traded this offseason. Let's start with Kevin Love. Still a double-double machine, still a really good player. Maybe he's not a superstar at this point in his career, but he certainly still has value on an NBA team. The problem is he has one of the worst contracts in the NBA. That's why I've got him a little bit lower on this list at number 6. Owed over $90 million over the next 3 seasons with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Not really sure, quite honest, why they signed him to that massive contract a couple of years ago. I think it's just because they didn't want to completely restart, but in reality, they're already in a rebuild. Like I said, still really good, averaging almost 18 and 10 this year, 17 and 11 last year. He's consistently been 17 to 20 points and 10 rebounds pretty much his entire career. Obviously, when he was with Minnesota, he scored more points, but that's because they didn't have nearly enough pieces around him. But then came to Cleveland, played third wheel, and now he's getting older in his career, but still fairly young, still productive, still a really good player, grabs rebounds, can score, and yes, he is a good three-point shooter as well. So Kevin Love, I think, could get traded, but that contract is very hard to move. I know the Cavaliers would like to move him this offseason. Okay, I'm going to make this the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with an ad break, go ahead, scroll on down, answer this question. Biggest name to get traded this offseason. Who do you think it'll be? Go ahead and scroll on down and let me know. All right, number 5 here, I got Gary Harris. Kind of an under-the-radar player in the NBA. I like him a lot, two-way player. The problem is his scoring has really dipped the past couple of seasons, and I think it's because that obviously Denver has Nikola Jokic, they have Jamal Murray, those are their top 2 guys, and they've got other guys who have kind of elevated their game to another level. Will Barton's been really good. Michael Porter's played a little bit more. And speaking of Porter, I think he could be ready for a bigger role next season. So if that's the case, you might be able to trade Gary Harris, who has 2 years and almost $40 million left in his deal. It's a decent amount of change, but he's a player that defends and who can score at a decent clip. You could get something for Gary Harris. So if Denver doesn't go deep in the playoffs this year, don't be surprised if they explore a trade for one of their kind of second-tier players like Harris. You see the offensive production dip the past couple of years. 2017 and 18, you're like, man, this guy, he might be their second-best player. He's truly rising. And it just hadn't been that level the past couple of years. The efficiency hasn't dipped significantly. It's more just the volume, and the Nuggets have gone in a different direction offensively. Obviously, they've got Nikola Jokic. Will Barton is scoring 15 points per game. Jamal Murray has taken his game to another level, which is why they gave him that big deal. Now, Paul Millsap's entering free agency after this year, so with his money coming off the books, if you trade Gary Harris, you input Michael Porter into the starting lineup, you could take a swing at somebody in free agency if you are the Denver Nuggets, or maybe even package Harris to go trade for a better player. So I definitely think this is a possibility because as of now, Denver's really good, but I don't know if they're truly a contender at this point. I'll leave that to you guys, and I'm not just talking about this year. I'm talking about, with this current core moving forward. Are the Nuggets contenders or pretenders? Type C for contenders, type P for pretenders. I don't know if they're quite contenders. I can't type my C. I think they need another big-time player. Maybe trading Gary Harris for somebody can help them get there. All right, guys, I hope you continue to stay safe. It's been challenging the past couple of months with the pandemic. I hope you guys have a face mask. But if you don't, or if you want to upgrade and represent your team, go to this link, chatsports.com/NBA mask. You can get these 3-packs now for like $24.99. It's a great deal. They've really upgraded the NBA masks because before they were okay, but now you got a lot better styles, in my opinion. All 32 teams, not just the ones that we are showing you guys. So go to chatsports.com/NBA mask. Represent your team. By the time next season rolls around, even if games are in home arenas, you might still have to wear a face mask. So go ahead and get one today. All right, number 4 here, I got Joel Embiid for the 76ers. How long can we trust the process, right? Obviously the NBA is returning and the Sixers are going to have a chance to do some damage, but if they exit early in the playoffs here, time might be out on the Embiid and Simmons era. It might be time to split these two up. Now, I think Embiid's a better player, but he's also more injury prone, and a lot of chatter in NBA circles is that if they were going to move one of these guys, it would likely be Embiid because he'd probably fetch a little bit more in a trade, and they feel like Simmons will have a longer career because he is less injury prone. Look, these two are one of the top young duos in the NBA, but for whatever reason, they have not been able to get to that next level in the NBA playoffs over the past 2, 3, 4 seasons. We'll see if that happens this year. If they make a run to, say, the Eastern Conference Finals, then they probably won't split these two up. But if they lose in the first or second round, as of now, they're the 6th seed. Don't be shocked if Philadelphia, A, fires Brett Brown, and B, splits up their two young superstars. And I think they would opt to trade Joel Embiid, although I would probably go the other direction in Ben Simmons. And I think the root of their problems, or a big part of their problem, is they let Jimmy Butler go, and they went and signed Al Horford. Why? I don't really know. Al Horford is a center in today's NBA, and he's played the 4 position. They even benched him before the pandemic hit and brought him off the bench. It hasn't worked with him next to Embiid. They don't have enough scoring on their bench. Embiid and Simmons and Harris are great, but that's not enough for what they need to take to the next level. We'll see what they do in the playoffs, but if they fall short, I think there's a good chance one of these guys gets traded. So pick one to trade. If you're running the Sixers, who would you trade? Type E for Embiid, type S for Simmons. I would trade Simmons, but I believe that they're more likely to trade Embiid. I think that's the more likely scenario. Let me know what you guys would do down below. All right, let's get into our top 3 here. Chris Paul, he's been linked to trade rumors. Like Kevin Love, his contract is pretty brutal, but I think he's more tradable now than he was, say, a year ago, even though he did get traded for Russell Westbrook, obviously, but that's because the Thunder got so many picks for Westbrook that they couldn't turn that deal down. But with him bouncing back this year in OKC, staying healthy, yes, 2 years and $88+ million is a lot. But it's only 2 years. That contract's more tradable, this offseason than it was a year ago. I think they could potentially trade Chris Paul and not have to give up, multiple first-round picks in the process. 18-7 this year, shooting the ball well from the outside. I think Chris Paul would have some value on several NBA teams. He's been connected to the Knicks. He's been connected to the Miami Heat as a potential destination. Obviously, teams are going to have to move contracts around to make it work, but he's a little bit more tradable than he was a year ago, and that's why I've got him on my list. The Thunder have been one of the best stories in the NBA with Paul and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the backcourt. We'll see how they play now that the playoffs are set to return. Obviously, Gallinari's still in the mix there. They tried to trade him at the deadline as well. That trade with Miami fell through, but I do think Chris Paul is a candidate to get moved this offseason. It won't be easy, but it's a little bit easier than it was a year ago, and I think it's a little bit easier than, say, to trade for Kevin Love, who I had number 6 on this list. Should the Thunder trade Chris Paul? Type Y for yes, type N for no. If they don't have to give up a first-round pick, if a team's willing to take him, I think the answer is definitely yes. The Thunder have been a nice story. They're not really a contender with what they have. Continue to build around your young players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Top 2 here, CJ McCollum from the Blazers. Kind of like Embiid and Simmons. At some point, splitting up Lillard and McCollum seems inevitable. Really good scorer, good playmaker. The problem is, and this has been the talking point for the Blazers for years now, is Lillard and McCollum just get torched defensively. They're really good scorers. They're good players. Neither of them are good defenders, though. And in today's NBA, one of your guards has to be able to defend, and neither of them can. So even when they score 110 points per game, they give up 125 a lot of nights because they're just undersized guards with not top-end athleticism, Lillard and McCollum. So, and you look at it, too, you see them regress this year. They're battling for that 8 seed. That's what they're trying to accomplish down in Orlando once play resumes. But you kind of feel like the Western Conference Finals run last year might be the peak for this duo. You kind of feel like that was their best chance, and they got swept by the Warriors. So I like McCollum. I don't see them ever trading Damian Lillard. I think he's a lifer in Portland, so naturally the next step would be trading McCollum to try and get different pieces in there. He's really good. He stepped up big time last year in the second round to knock down the Nuggets when he scored like 37 points. Lillard didn't show up. McCollum did. He's excellent. I'm not saying this because I think he's bad. I'm saying this because how far can Lillard and McCollum truly go together? I think the Western Conference Finals last year is as far as they can go unless they get a legitimate wing that is, like a Jimmy Butler type. I don't think they can go any further than they have in the past. So I think it might be time to split up Lillard and McCollum. And they're not going to trade Lillard, so that means they would likely have to trade C.J. McCollum. Do not be surprised if he gets dealt this offseason. Now, pick one to trade. Type M for McCollum, type L for Lillard. I would imagine most of you are going to say McCollum, and I would agree with you. As great as he is, Lillard is a top 10 player in the NBA, and you just do not trade those guys unless you have to. All right, Bradley Beal, number one guy here. Yeah, the latest report suggests he might stay with the Wizards, but it was just a couple of months ago that he basically was demanding a trade, and if he wants to win, he'll force his way out of Washington. Now, maybe it doesn't happen this offseason. Maybe it's more of a next trade deadline type of trade, but I think at some point he gets dealt. I just don't see him there for the long term. John Wall's been hurt. He's not coming back this season. Hopefully he's ready to go next season. Maybe they can figure something out together, but they haven't always gotten along historically. So I still think trading him makes the most sense, both for him and for the Wizards, who would get a ton for him. His efficiency has dipped without John Wall because he's had to carry the load. Look at that three-point percentage. That's not indicative of the kind of shooter he is. He's an excellent player. He's improved dramatically as a distributor with over 7 assists per game this year. He would be excellent on a contending team next to a couple of other superstars. Which team should trade for Bradley Beal? Who should trade for him? Go ahead, let me know in the comment section. Every team, he is the ideal second or third wheel in today's NBA. But go ahead and type your team down below. All right, so just to recap here, 6 offseason trade candidates. I got Kevin Love at number 6. I think it's a little tougher with his contract. Gary Harris, don't be surprised if the Nuggets explore some trade options for him or some of their other players. Joel Embiid, I think him or Simmons could be gone, and I'm going to lead Embiid on this one. And then top 3, Chris Paul. If the Thunder can find a suitor, I think they will definitely ship him. C.J. McCollum, kind of like Embiid and Simmons, you got to split up him and Lillard at some point. And then Bradley Beal with the Wizards. Despite latest reports saying he might stay, I think there's a very good chance he gets traded this offseason.